Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry, as always, that life kind of gets in the way, and videos are coming out fairly slowly the last several months. Just with the world being as crazy as it is right now, and just stuff happening, my classes have just kind of rolled a little slower, especially with trying to get my blog going for you guys, so you have content on there as well. So I apologize, and I am working on making it so I can get back to a more regular schedule. Bear with me, and I hope you're not too disappointed by how infrequently these classes are coming. We are going to be finishing Bloodbound today, so moving forward I'm going to try and get some character analysis in, and we're going to go on to the next book, and hopefully I can get it through that book a little bit quicker so you're not done with the book before, the second video comes out. Alright, so another disclaimer really quick is I am watching the dogs today. My roommates are out, so they are barkers. I apologize in advance if there is a lot of barking in the background. Hopefully I will be able to edit anything out that has a majority of barking, but they might come in here and want to be pet and that kind of stuff. So hopefully it won't be derailing us too much, but I am letting you know in advance that loving dogs might be barking in the background anyway. So bear with me. Okay, so as I mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, we are going to be finishing Bloodbound today. It's chapters 13 through the end. So hopefully you enjoyed the second book of Mercy Thompson. I'm sure you were done with it a long time ago and you're like, Amy, you are just catching up. Get with it. I've already finished the whole series by now or anything else like that, and I understand that I'm behind. But we will be doing also the next book. So hopefully if you haven't read that one yet, or if you want to reread it again with me, that we can be more of a regular schedule of getting the discussions out. Okay, so as always, let's go ahead and start with our recap. It's kind of this set of chapters is the ending of everything and then kind of like what happens after the main conflict. So we're kind of wrapping up, not tons of things that happened, but we do start with Stefan forcing Mercy over to him, and he drinks her blood and she drinks his blood in return. Littleton is too distracted by feeding on Andre that she ends up having a chance to attack him and to kill him, and does successfully kill Littleton. Then, because she finds out that Andre, who made Littleton, is not going to be held responsible by Marcilla and possibly wanting to use Andre to create another sorcerer vampire, she decides to go on a vampire hunt for Andre. During this search, she ends up finding Wolf's house by seeing all the ghosts that permeate his house, and realizes that she can find what house is owned by a vampire by all the ghosts that permeate the building. She also learns that Wolf can move about during the day even if he can't leave his house in the safety of the darkness, that he is awake, and strangely he does let her go even though he knows exactly the purpose of her finding his house. She then, after some more searching, finds Andre's house and murders him in his bed while he is unable to move. But she is caught by Wolf and Stefan doing this, and she tries to save the two humans, but instead Wolf and Stefan end up killing them and setting the house on fire, so that way Marcilla will not know that she is the one that killed Andre. And then we kind of wrap up with us seeing Marcilla actually following through and fixing Mercy's house, and she ends up going back to work, and things kind of normalize somewhat after the event. So it seems that she's gotten away with it. Yeah, so kind of important events happen in this one, but not tons of compact information. We kind of have the main conflict ending with Littleton, and then we kind of slow down into the whole search for Andre and finishing him off. The question is, will Marcilla end up finding out that she killed Andre? That will be the question for the future. Okay, so I don't actually have too much for this book for the ending, because like we said, we have some main events, but it's not like a ton of information, a ton of things happening. So we're going to go ahead and talk about two main things. We're going to do our nitty gritty like normal, and then I'm going to have us do kind of a transition topic into book 3, so that way when we start that, we can have a little bit of discussion of transitioning to that story. So the biggest thing I kind of saw in this set of chapters is the concept of killing and murder in this story, and how it is presented, how it is for characters, what it means, that kind of stuff. So, for example, we really see the effect that that has on Ben for feeling guilty about killing and eating Daniel, which, if you remember, he was the vampire that was with Stefan, that Stefan was trying to help save, who was originally one of the earlier victims of Littleton. And Ben ends up, because of Littleton, killing Daniel and devouring him in his wolf form. And he's really struggling with the guilt of it. And considering Ben is not somebody that we see as like a super cuddly, shies away from violence kind of character, it's really interesting that Ben is the one that feels guilty for killing a vampire, not just even, a human or, like a woman or somebody defenseless, though Daniel was not overly not defenseless at the time. But he's killing a vampire, which, the werewolves don't have great opinions of vampires in general. But he's still struggling with it. He didn't want to do it. It's not somebody that, he hated or was attacking him or anything else. He was part of this game that Littleton was playing, and therefore ended up killing Daniel. Not only killing, but also eating Daniel. So we really see that there's another dynamic of Ben in this moment, through us seeing how he's reacted to this act of violence that he was forced to commit against somebody who was not his enemy, was not anything that was going to hurt him or attack him, someone who is already broken, even if he is a vampire who is seen as evil. Ben didn't want to kill him or eat him. Now, we don't know exactly how much the eating portion of it is affecting him over the killing portion, because maybe if he just killed Daniel, it wouldn't have hit him as hard, and maybe it would have. But especially the combination has really just made him racked with guilt. So we really add another dimension to Ben here. He's not just some mindless killer, especially since in the first novel we have Mercy, who has known that Ben in Europe, or in Britain, was supposed to have been convicted of raping several girls. Obviously, it was not confirmed that that is the case from Ben, but that is the reason he had to come to the America. And so we don't really see him as a great person. We do see snippets of Ben, like even in the last one where he protects Adam and all that, but we don't really see him as like this cuddly great guy, and I already mentioned that we don't see him as somebody who shies away from violence, but now we see that he's not just some kind of mindless killing machine or just a jerk. He actually does feel strongly about killing somebody that he doesn't feel like should have been killed. Now, we see Mercy and what she believes and feels about murder and killing in general. Mercy is very conscious that she is murdering Andre. Littleton, she got around the act of killing him in her mind by being like, this is a threat to everybody. He's killing humans, he's draining them of blood, he's attacking the pack, he's attacking the vampires, he's out of control, he's just on a murderous rampage. So to her, killing Littleton wasn't really murder in the same sense as what she's doing to Andre. She sees going to Andre's house where he's supposed to be safe at a time during the day when he's unable to move and be awake and protect himself, and especially when he hasn't actually physically attacked Mercy in any way, shape, or form. In fact, he was the one helping her find Littleton, though it was not for the good reasons, though he was the one that created Littleton. He wasn't actively pursuing to hurt Mercy, and here she is coming into his house when he's helpless and murdering him in his sleep. So she's very, very conscious of this distinction of that Littleton was, yes, she killed Littleton, but Andre she sees as murdering Andre. That doesn't stop her, no, but she definitely sees a difference and feels morally upset that she is having to make this choice because of Marcilla to murder a vampire. Even though, again, other than Stefan, she basically sees the vampires as evil in many ways. But she also doesn't believe that she should just go into their houses and kill them for no reason. Of course, she does have a reason, but at the same time, she's not giving him a chance to fight back or to protect his own life. So to her, there is a very, very, very big distinction between what she did to Littleton and what she is doing to Andre. And not only is she doing this when he is in his bed, unable to protect himself, she actually goes out of her way to hunt him down. I think that's also another point that is important to Mercy in her brain about what she's doing and how she feels guilty in a way of doing this. Yes, she wants to save lives. Yes, she knows that Marcilla is going to kill people if they create another sorcerer vampire. Yes, 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 we're checking all the boxes of why she does it and why it's understandable that she goes through with it. But Mercy's also a very wonderful, great person who cares about people, even vampires, who most other supernatural creatures would believe you shouldn't care about them because they're evil incarnate. But she cares about people. She cares about vampires. She doesn't want to just go out killing people, even vampires who are technically evil, or as defined as evil and seen as evil, even in her own mind. Other than Stefan, she does have in this other category at this point. But that doesn't mean that she has the right to go in and just murder whoever she wants and to just wipe them out. So she also knows the implications of what it means to Marcilla, but that doesn't bother her nearly as much as the implications of whether she's ending a life that she shouldn't be ending. So she's actually hunting this vampire down. Yes, she was hunting Littleton, who was hurting people, but she's literally hunting and planning his murder in advance. Not just planning to kill him if she gets a chance, but hunting him down to murder him when he's helpless in his sleep. So for her, killing is okay. Killing to survive is okay. But murder, when the circumstances aren't urgent at that time, really does a number on her as well. So we see both Ben and Mercy really feel guilty over the choices that they either made or was forced upon them in the ending of this, when they really see the distinction of killing versus murder and what exactly that means morally and how that affects what kind of person they are. Of course, Ben had no choice, and he was not under his own control, and he did it, and so he has to forgive himself, and he understands that. Mercy knows that this is another problem in the making. Andre's gonna help murder people with a new sorcerer. He knows that that's gonna make Marcilla stronger and have problems there. She knows that she is doing what she believes is right, especially since there's no punishment coming from Marcilla. And actually there's props, I guess you could say, or encouragement from Marcilla. So she feels that she is justified and that her choices are the correct ones, and that is why she goes through with it. But it's also a different kind of choice that she is making, and one that she feels that has been thrust upon her by the society of vampires. So it really shows another level of character building to both Ben and Mercy with this distinction. It's not just, you know, she's like, oh hey, it's a vampire, let's throw it out. Or hey, he was a vampire and I ate him alive and it's not my fault because I wasn't under control. They both internalize it, and for me, it really makes them more complex, more relatable, more wonderful characters. And then we've got our third person, who I want to talk about with killing versus murder. And it's going to be it's a third person with kind of a half of a fourth person, because it's mainly about Wolf, but we also have a little bit of Stefan in there too. So it's kind of about both of them. Wolf kills the two humans that Andre had in his house. And also, I feel like we kind of have to include Wolf in the participation of Andre's murder. Because Mercy finds him at his house by getting it wrong. She finds a vampire house, goes inside and realizes it's Wolf's. And Wolf knows exactly what she's going to be doing. He comments on it to her and everything. So he knows 100% that she's going to kill Andre and that she's hunting Andre down. He doesn't tell Marcella. He doesn't tell Andre. He doesn't stop her. He doesn't kill her. He doesn't even look her way. He just lets her go about it. And yes, technically he knows how to create a sorcerer, and that is mentioned as well. But he doesn't actively try to save Andre in any way, shape, or form. So in kind of a way, he is complicit before she even gets to killing him. He is complicit, or kind of in league with her on this killing, on this murder. And then not only that, but he murders the two humans that Mercy was trying to save from Andre's house. So we really see the opposite of Mercy and Ben with Wolf. Wolf feels no regret. Wolf feels no problems. Wolf sees no issues with letting Mercy kill Andre. For whatever reasons, we don't totally know those reasons based on what he says and what he's doing. Wolf's kind of a mystery. But we know that he has no problem with Mercy killing him. We know that Wolf has no problem with killing quote, quote, sheep. And just murders them away. It's so easy for him, and he doesn't feel any guilt that we can see at all. Now, because we're from Mercy's point of view, and it's first person, we can't know 100% that Wolf doesn't feel guilty. We're not told that. Mercy doesn't perceive that. He doesn't say anything. But from what we see and how we've known him to be this whole story, is it doesn't seem like he has any guilt or any problems with murder, and it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if it's a vampire. It doesn't matter if it's a human. It doesn't matter what reasons it has for the killing. It's just whatever, done and done. So he's really the opposite. And we really see, like I mentioned, Stefan kind of in this as well. Stefan probably suspected that Mercy was possibly going to go after Andre. She suspected it enough that he found Mercy at Andre's house and was keeping an eye on her. Just because he knows how Mercy is. But then he also tells Wolf and colludes with Wolf, even though he doesn't actively kill them, to save Mercy by killing the two humans. He knew that Mercy would not forgive him for killing them himself. So he has Wolf do it. So he is complicit in at least the murder of the 2 human sheep that Mercy is trying to save. And yes, it is because he is worried about Mercy, but he has no problems with killing these humans along with Wolf and having Wolf do it. He would have done it himself if he knew that Mercy would forgive him for it. The only reason he has Wolf do it in the first place is because he knows that Mercy would never talk to him again if he did. So Wolf and Stefan kind of show the opposite of what Mercy and Ben is. Mercy and Ben both see that what they're doing is wrong, or what they have done is wrong, despite the circumstances that force them to do those and to make those choices, or to have to do those actions with no choice. Wolf and Stefan make these choices completely on their own. Nobody's forcing them. There's no particular will that is exerted against them that's making them have to do these killings and this murder, and they do it anyway. Now, vampires are supposed to be considered evil. That is what we've learned, is that they are considered the epitome of evil. But we also, or at least I also, really like Stefan and feel like he is a good person overall. I feel like he has a lot of potential, and you can see that he tries to hold himself to a higher standard than just, I'm a vampire and that's the way I'm supposed to act, especially with the way he keeps the humans that he does, and he tries to treat them nicely and tries to make it so he doesn't kill them. So even he succumbs to a different idea of what killing is and what murder is, and there is a contrast between the good guys and the questionable guys, I guess you could say. So we really see these kind of 2 concepts of murder is wrong, killing is wrong, and go ahead and kill and destroy people. I just find it really interesting to see these 2 ideas really set side by side. What do you think? How do you feel? Do you think that this really shows that vampires are evil? I don't know. And then the other topic I really wanted to discuss for this was vampire politics and motivations. So obviously a lot of this book has to do with vampires, and we're learning a lot about their motivations and their society and politics and things like that. But I think it's really interesting that we see 3 different vampires here, and we're unsure exactly, or we're seeing exactly what their motivations are. And the first one we're going to talk about is Wolf, and this kind of ties back to what we were just talking about with the killing and the murder. But we don't really understand Wolf's motivations or political gains or anything at all. I feel like we don't really understand anything through this whole book with Wolf. But especially in this ending here, it makes no sense. He's like such an unknown character at this point. We don't understand why he doesn't stop Mercy from killing Andre. Like, why not? He's a vampire, he's part of the coven, he already has more status than Andre, he's already close to Marcella, he's already obviously more powerful than Andre in the fact that he can be awake when Andre can't. Why doesn't he stop Mercy from killing Andre? Why, if he knows how to create a demon for Marcella, or a sorcerer or a vampire for Marcella, and he understands exactly how to go about doing it as he has claimed, why does he not offer to show Marcella, since that's apparently what she wants? Why does he hold back the knowledge that he has, and either he thinks it's not a good idea or whatever else the case may be, because we don't really know? Why doesn't he show her? Why doesn't he do this? Andre did it, so, and he knows now that Marcella wants that from him, and would like that in her life, so why not do it? And then why help Stefan cover up Mercy killing Andre? Like, for any of it. What does it gain for him? Why does he care? Why does it matter to him? I mean, obviously in the future we might find out that, like, you know, Stefan owes Wolf for doing this or something like that. I can see maybe Wolf wanting a favor from Stefan, especially since Stefan is so close to Marcilla. She is literally, you know, practically in love with Stefan in many ways, as it seems. He is her right-hand man. So I could see maybe if he wants, like, a favor from Stefan. But other than that, like, why would he care? Why would he show up, first of all, when he, you know, to find out that Mercy is killing Andre? Why would he then show up at Stefan's call and help him and cover this up for Marcilla? Why not tell Marcilla? I mean, you know, I find that at this point, Wolf is just a complete mystery. We don't understand any of his motivations. We don't understand any of his politics. I mean, he just seems crazy. He does the stuff with that chair where there's the truth or not. And obviously has some magical abilities, but what motivates him? What is pulling his strings? Is he loyal to Marcilla? Like, it seems so strange, doesn't it? Let me know what you think about Wolf at this point. If you're confused, if you have thoughts, feelings, concerns, because Wolf is just, as we continue to read and stuff like that, he's always a character that's just kind of like I don't really get him. And in many ways, he's kind of like a Razlan character from our Dragonlance stories. Is you don't really know his motivations, you don't really know his thoughts and his feelings and why he does anything. And he seems like he's a bad guy, but at the same time doesn't really seem totally like a bad guy. So let me know what you think of Wolf. I think he's a very interesting character. And then let's move on to Marcilla and her politics. So right now, her motivation and her politics and her thing is that she's the top of this group, yes, of this coven. But she really, really, really wants to get back to Italy. That's been her goal since she moved to the Tri-City area. She wants to get back to the power and the prestige she had living in Italy, being the right-hand woman to the leader of all vampires. So she wants this demon sorcerer vampire in order to gain power and privilege, in order to help herself get back to Italy. Everything she wants to do at this point is to get back to Italy. Italy, Italy, Italy is the goal. It's ever her motivation. And that's why she doesn't, you know, punish Andre, and that's why she doesn't originally want the sorcerer vampire to be killed, is because she sees it as a way to gain power and to make it so she can get back to Italy where she wants to be, because she's been thrown away in a sense and is stuck having to do the coven and be in the States and be at this lowly status and to be far, far away from everything that she's wanted. So Marcilla is pretty straightforward on her motivations and her goals at this point, where you can really tell exactly why she's doing what she's doing, unlike Wolf. And then we have Stefan, who has the most unusual, for a vampire, that is, most unusual reason to do anything that he's been doing, and that is to protect Mercy. He kills the sheep in order to protect Mercy. He tries to have Mercy out of the way as much as possible from Marcilla in order to protect her, because he doesn't want her to be on Marcilla's radar. Sorry again if you can hear a whole bunch of dog noises. One of the dogs that's in here sniffing around. But anyway, so he was just kind of distracting me. Anyway, everything at this point is to protect Mercy, and we see at this end point that he obviously is motivated to protect Mercy because he has feelings. That's why he didn't ever mention the fact that she is a walker to Marcilla, which she finds very annoying. But all of his goals that we see that are like main goals have been, and main things that he's done has been to protect Mercy because he really likes Mercy. And as we have seen at the end, he likes Mercy more than Mercy thought he liked her, which is very, very unusual motivation. So you don't really even at this point, and all the vampires that we've met really relate a vampire with the emotion of love. They're different. I find that this is interesting, is that they're very different from a lot of other vampires, and the fact that they're not really associated with, a lot of other big vampire stories, like, Twilight and other kinds of paranormal romances and that kind of stuff, where they're the seductive, fall in love type sexy vampires. They do have their sexiness to them, they do have their good looking nature to them, but they're kind of more alien, and they're kind of more presented as evil beings, that even if you're a good human, once you become a vampire, you're just evil. We don't really understand why vampires are, don't keep any of their humanity or anything like that, but basically any humanity that you had is gone when you become a vampire. But we see the essences and the possibilities of humanity in Stefan. So for the vampires that we've seen, this is a very unusual motivation to have, because he is doing this for somebody else that he cares about. And though, yes, vampires do have people that they care about, just as Marcilla cares about Stefan, but it's not really a selfless caring. Or at least it doesn't come across as a selfless caring. It comes across as more as a greedy, I want that kind of caring, and I want to keep that. Possessive type of thing. So maybe it's possessive for Stefan too, but it doesn't come across that way, at least to me. Let me know if you have a different opinion, or a different opinion on the vampires that we see, vampire's nature that we see in this book. And let me know if you think of any other vampires that I have missed for political motivations and stuff like that, because that's all I can think of at the moment. But let me know if I have missed one that you think is really imperative. Okay, so that being said, let's go ahead and get to our nitty gritty. I've got 4 different things I want to say, just to keep in mind, as always, as we continue reading through Mercy's stories. We're going to do at least one more. And so, Stefan apparently has feelings for Mercy. This is linking to what we just were talking about. I think this is a very interesting development because, yes, you saw sparks of it, but you didn't really know that it was like a romantic love. It could have just been like an obsession or anything else, especially since, with vampires not being associated with like, lovey-dovey feelings and being cuddly sweet at times. It's really interesting that Stefan kisses Mercy, especially because we already have Samuel and Adam in the mix of wanting Mercy. So now we've added another male to the mixture that wants Mercy, and this one even surprises Mercy. So I think it's important that we keep in mind that though it has not been focused on at this point, we now have knowledge that Stefan has feelings for Mercy, and obviously they're romantic ones in the fact that he kissed her and wanted to have people murdered for her to cover up what she'd done to Marcilla. So let's just keep that in mind as we keep going. Then we've got that the sorcerer was the actual reason for Sam's mental struggles. He's been struggling so hard in this book, especially when we have that moment with him talking about the hospital and the baby and all that. and he's just so depressed and he's struggling so hard. And we find out that really Sam was struggling because the demon's negative energy and the radiation of whatever it is that he gives off and the chaos that he ensues just by being around is what makes Sam so depressed and bonkers. So we're gonna see if he picks himself up from this, because now that the sorcerer's gone, if he's gonna start leveling out, if he's gonna start getting better, or if this depression is actually going to affect him, since he's already been kind of affected for a while now. We've kind of had mentions of him struggling, and that's the whole reason he's with Mercy, is because he's struggling in a way. So we're gonna see how that goes from this point on to further stories. And then we've got that Gabriel and Jesse have started dating. I know that's kind of like a really small thing, but I really feel like it's good to point out that there are some mundane human things that happen around in these stories as well. There's these big events happening and still the small things come through, and that even with all the pressure and all the craziness, Jesse and Gabriel have gotten together. And, you know, there's budding love or whatever, and they're just teenagers, and it's just Adam's daughter, and it's just Mercy's part-time worker. But I think that Patricia putting these things in, like Gabriel and Jesse getting together, shows that, you know, a human that was not anywhere near supernatural beings can still find, you know, a place in that setting and find somebody that he cares about. And that even with all the chaos and all the crazy stuff that's happening with this world, there is still some small happiness and some small victories and some small human-like emotions and human-like moments that can happen. So I'm really happy for both of them, and hopefully we will see if it works out for them. And last but not least for the Nitty Gritty, this is something that again is just like a small detail that's just so intriguing, and it shows to me how good of a writer Patricia Briggs is because this is something that like is so small and minuscule, and this is what she ends on. And I'll be honest and do a tiny mini spoiler. You never know anything about how this is possible later in the stories, at least not through all the books that she has out at this current moment. And it never comes up again, but it's just so intriguing and makes you be like, what does it mean? And that is that Mrs. Hannah, the ghost, apparently somehow drew Mercy a picture of Adam and left it for her. Like, I mean, not only did Mrs. Hannah know that Mercy was dating or intrigued with Adam and intertwined with Adam, she also somehow manipulated the real world and drew a picture of Adam, signed it, and left it for Mercy. And that's exactly what we end on, is just this mysterious moment of like, how did she possibly draw this picture of Adam and leave it for Mercy? And we have her talking about saying, I was drawing this picture, and where is it? I was going to give it to you. And then we find out that she literally did draw a picture for Mercy and literally didn't give it to her, and she's dead. And she's also the one of those that loops around and can interact a little bit, but for the most part just does her normal routine of when she was alive. So I have not yet learned how Mrs. Hannah did it or what this means about ghosts or anything, but I just find it so intriguing, and I find it so wonderful that Patricia leaves this book on this note of just like, what? And then the book's done. So to me, it's just a show of how great Patricia is at writing, and the fact that she can leave you high and dry on something so tiny and minuscule and something that's never going to come up again, and you just be like, oh my gosh, like, that was awesome, like, that's intriguing, that's wonderful, like, whatever else you might think about it is just, dang. And then it's over, and you're just left like, the world is still a mystery. So yeah, I don't know if that struck anybody else quite as hard as it did me, but it's really one of the moments that I'm always like, I always think of that. Not as necessarily as thinking about like a main event or whatever, but when I just think of like the moments that I'm just like, those were super great, I'm just like, man, the picture that Mrs. Hannah leaves and then the drop off is just so good. So good. Alright, and then to kind of just wrap this all up, I just want to do a quick little transition to book 3. We don't have a ton of things that I want to talk about, just because, you know, as each book is its own story, we kind of have its own climax and own ending. There isn't much, you know, that's transferring over other than our relationships and knowledge of what's happened beforehand, obviously. But it's not like with our Dragonlance stories where it was one long story. But just something I was thinking that I found really interesting, that I thought would be really cool for you to see at this point and kind of give us a little hint possibly for working toward book 3, is that book 1 was called Moon Called. And that was a story that related to conflict with the werewolves. So you can kind of see the relationship between werewolf and Moon Called, especially also since she's a coyote and she's kind of like in the same realm, not quite the same, but you know, werewolves are about the moon. Like, you know, the moon makes them transform, whatever else, they're very related to the moon. Moon Called. This book is called Bloodbound, and it's a vampire-related conflict. And blood has to do with vampires. So we've seen 2 times in a row now that the title has some kind of link to what the main conflict is about. Moon Called, related to wolves. Bloodbound, and it's related to vampires. Now, I don't know for you personally how much fantasy reading that you do. Obviously, you're on this channel, you do like fantasy, but maybe you're just starting out. So this next title might not make as much sense for some of those who have read more stories and know more about different urban and fanatical creatures that are supposed to be in urban fantasies or kind of everyday society stories that we have about them. But the book 3 that we're going to be reading is called Iron Kissed. And iron, which we've already known a little bit about when we talk about Z and everything like that, is iron is not usually compatible with Fae. But this is Iron Kissed, and we do know that we know of one Fae that can interact with iron, which is Z, because he's the mechanic that taught Mercy. So, hint hint wink wink, maybe the next book is going to be Fae conflict related. Obviously we don't know at this point, just from the title, exactly what that means and exactly how it's going to be Fae related, but it does give us a little kind of trend that we can see, is that we've got Moon Called, it being wolf related, Bloodbound being vampire related, so it's a very good guess that Iron Kissed is kind of a hint that it's going to be a Fae conflict related. So I think that's kind of interesting, it's kind of fun. We're going to see obviously if that is correct or not as we continue reading, but it does give us kind of a possibility there. So yeah, that's about all the transition that I wanted to do, just giving that little hint hint wink wink of the trend we seem to be following with the titles. We're going to see if book number 3 is the same. For the next set of chapters, go ahead and start on Iron Kissed. The next book in the Mercy Thompson series, chapters 1 through 4 for the next class, which on my Kindle version, that's going to be pages 1 through 82. Again, it's a pretty quick read, I think you guys have found, and there's not very many chapters, so it should go by pretty quick, but give us a good section of book to talk about for our next class. Yeah, if there's anything that you think that I missed, anything you want to comment on, any questions that you have, anything that I have not explained well enough, whatever it is, if you want to go ahead and contact me about it and have a discussion, you can either comment down below, you can email me, or you are welcome to go to Twitter. At FantasyFiction1 is the Twitter. And now, as I mentioned on the last video, I do have a blog up where you can contact me there as well. It's www.fantasyfictionfanatics.net. I actually have content up now, guys. I've been doing very well with getting up one post a week, which I cannot say I've been doing quite as well with the videos, but videos do tend to take prep work and then having time to film, which isn't always easy. The filming part is the part that's the hardest to get time to do. So I do now have some content on there for you guys to look at. I've started several different types of categories and just kind of plunked out one from each category. At least I'll obviously come up with more in the future, but I've got things like fantasy terminology on there, book reviews. I've now got 2 of those up. Fanatic deliberations, which is just me talking about different things, fantasy related and book reading related. Top 5 lists or favorites. I have recommendations if you're looking for a new book and you want a specific type of book or you like a specific type of story. I've got some recommendations up there, so go ahead and check it out or contact me on there if that's something that you seem interested in. I think that's it for today, and I guess I will see you in the next class. Bye!